Now, before I want to proceed and call on the chairman of this occasion to give us the open speech. But let me just introduce who is the chairman. The chairman of this occasion is a politician, a legal practitioner. He is the chairman of Shunibare Estate. He is a progressive to the core. He is the leader of NADECO. The chairman of this occasion also worked with the likes of Alarabe Musa to champion the cause of humanity, to fight for democracy, and to fight to deepen democracy in Nigeria. May I welcome, I call him a pace setter, Chief Shukwo Shonibare. Over to you, sir.
Board of NADECO USA for inviting us to join in commemorating 30 years since that vote for the democratic system that all Nigerians trooped up to ensure that there was going to be an end to military interregnum. So the theme of today's discourse is June 12th, which we commemorate today, and the voyage of democracy since that epic demonstration of Nigerians of their will to ensure that they cast their votes in spite of the challenges we had on that day. In my own view, we evolved from military rule to civilian rulership, the longest span that Nigeria has had of civilian rulership, 30 years. Most of those who were part of that rulership 30 years ago some are still directly involved with rulership. So it means that we've had civilians now ruling us for a much longer period than military leadership have had a stint in this country. So how have we fared in ensuring that democracy has been enhanced through this process?
I am very happy that I've been asked to take part in this Democracy Day celebration. But I am also unhappy that at the state of our democracy in Nigeria, on June 12th, we all went out and it was peaceful and it was the freest and fairest election we had. However, it would seem that the electoral process is being hijacked by, I would say, all sorts of dubious characters. And I feel very sad that this is not the democracy that we who were in NADECO fought for. The quality in Nigeria has grown from bad to worse. What we have now, I'm sorry to say so, I cannot call it democracy. We have governments that refuse to obey court orders. We have governments that, in fact, seem to think that the treasury belongs to them. However, I believe that we should not relent in our efforts. NADECO is right now back to where we were when we started the struggle. So NADECO must, in fact, put itself back in the position to show the way. We must show the way. We must get a new constitution, because also our constitution is part of our trouble. Because the military have made it virtually impossible for us to change our constitution.
And in drawing from the spirit of what went down in June 12th, it's also seeing things beyond just the players, seeing things beyond. Like then, I don't think it was just a matter of MKO and versus IBB and then later Abacha. It was the mass refusing to allow themselves to be ruled, misruled, or cowed the way the Iteto had been. We need to feed such embers of resistance again against all forms of and machinations of imperialist forces and elements within the country as the political class that continue to repress the people and make life, nasty, short, and brutish for the mass of Nigerian people. Thank you.
This is Dana Amder Rabana, the senior advocate of Nigeria, life member of Body of Benchers. She was the Attorney General of Cross River State.
The essence of the struggle was enthronement of the democracy. It was enthronement of the rule of law. It was to end military rule and to ensure that free, fair, and credible elections are protected, promoted, such that any election, you produce a leader that is acceptable. I think that was the whole idea. And to respect the electorate, because the electorate had been either muted or taken for granted. And so you ask yourself now, where are we? And besides that ideological movement, within it had stakeholders, people who cared, people who wanted to see that Nigeria doesn't descend into the abyss.
June 12th itself, the annulment, for some of us, wasn't as important as the response, which was pioneered by those who never participated in that election. The role of Campaign for Democracy, even though some of us who also disagreed with the idea of Campaign for Democracy when it was first initiated, eventually in 1992, also joined that bandwagon. And it became very important when it played that pioneering role of rallying Nigerians.
Dr. Fakamunda is a chief son of Fenefere. He's a data analysis, and he has been going from one station to the other to fight for a proper demography in Nigeria.
So much hopes were raised in 1999, but it turned to ashes in our hands because we have not been given the opportunity to really remake our nation in our own image. And no matter how long it takes, we will continue to suffer the consequences of our inaction. But the greatest challenge, though, at this moment is that we are fractionalized. We are not organized. There's no arrowhead to dictate what should be. Supposing we even have providentially say Nigeria, okay, let's call a meeting, let's call this conference. We are not ready for it. It is the same money men who scramble and just fill all the slots. So we have to use this body to really plan to have a movement to reform Nigeria.
To make a note of those who have died for the struggle of democracy in Nigeria, those who have paid the ultimate price, the real hero of democracy. They sacrificed with their blood. Pastor Abiola, Kudirat Abiola, the wife of Pastor Abiola, and also Baba Alfred Rewani, the chieftain of Afenifere, who also died for democracy in Nigeria. Bidemi Dowu was one of them. He died July 5, 1995. Bidemi Dowu died directly opposite National Library at Agnes bus stop in Lagos. He was crushed by Babangida Amotan. Bidemi Dowu died when his only son turned 40 days on the face of earth. And may the blood of all of these fallen heroes water the tree of freedom and deepen democracy in Nigeria. Not only in Nigeria, but across sub-Saharan Africa. I say amen to that. Thank you all.
What do we do from here? We always have to begin to talk about what we do from here to see this Sovereign National Conference. Like one speaker said, without it, we're wasting time here. If we don't have Sovereign National Conference to determine how Nigeria is structured and run, we'll be repeating this thing every 10 whatever number of years, because powers that have cornered Nigeria under the present structure are not going to release it without a fight. Sovereign National Conference, that's the only way. So we bring people together again to begin to agitate for this in Nigeria, everywhere. Let's all agitate for Sovereign National Conference. Let's not give this government any peace until that conference is scheduled and held. Thank you.
I do agree. Thanks for pointing that out. I also think I'll say yes and no, and I'll be quick in the response. As I said earlier, the repertoire of Sovereign National Conference then emerged from that particular period, and the Sovereign National Conference is a means. I wouldn't say it's an end. I think the end was touched on somewhat by Femi Obayori, which is about, the people really being the constitution as it is now, and this is where the yes also flows from. The constitution as it is now is a lie, is a fraud when it says we the people. So to have a new constitution to reshape, negotiate not only national consensus, but also for that to be part, we need a Sovereign National Conference. But what I want to be, and I'll be wrapping up after this, what I want to hammer on is not to see the Sovereign National Conference from strictly the sense of, say, an ethnic nationalities conference, but one in which the classes in society, the workers, the professionals, there's a sitting together on both territorial basis of nationalities, but also very importantly with regards to the social classes in society.
My question is, having gone through all this time, and for the situation we are experiencing now in Nigeria, what is the way forward? It hurts me so much that every time that the Nigerian people, the real people, desire good governance, they are denied of this reality. Right now, we're confused. I personally am confused looking forward. Someone mentioned sovereign conference. Would it be backed with a legitimate government? What is the way forward? I want to see solutions, not just talk. I guess that will be my question, because I'm still reveling with the fact that we get to where we are today, knowing what it was before we came here.
Well, thank you. I think the essence of this interaction is for us to take a leaf from the discussants, the speakers who have been invited to speak, and not necessarily my own personal views about the way forward. And I think what I can discern and take my own takeaway from the contributions so far are in suggesting what can be the way forward. Part of from what one of the discussants suggested was the need to build up a lot of awareness amongst the populace, because whichever direction you go, whether it's a Sovereign National Conference or any other processes that you embark upon, there has to be some recourse to some means of franchise. So there has to be some recourse to testing a popular vote, which makes the issue of conducting elections and for the process of conducting elections to have as much integrity as one can possibly think of, using technology. Then maybe the discussant who actually spoke about building up a consensus amongst a majority of Nigerians as a constitution precedent is critical for that, because you need a huge consensus amongst all of us for people to buy into whatever is being suggested, so that it's not a minority view too that is foisted on Nigerians.
These things we talked about, because it seems to me we already know what the problems are. It's how do we just move us to the next level. I still would like to propose on behalf of NADECO that we have some gathering, either in Nigeria, if it would be allowable, or somewhere in Ghana, or somewhere in the United States, so that we can sit down and put something in place and push from here. Otherwise, we're going to wait around for another 30 years. And again, I want to renew my appreciation to all of you. It's late in Nigeria, and although it's a public holiday in Nigeria, but is people called in from work here because it's a working day. So I thank all of you, and we look forward to working with you to harness